Well, welcome back to another Monday or straight up at 2 o'clock. I am so excited for our guest, Liz Heiman, CEO and Chief Sales Strategist of Regarding Sales. She's got so much to talk with us today, so much to talk to us about today. So real excited to have her and help me welcome Liz Heiman. Yay! Hello, Liz. I saw that there was already a comment in there from Simone who said this is going to be a great. Liz Heiman knows a lot about being a leader and growing leaders.
Hi, Simone. I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah, so that's fantastic. Tell us a little bit about yourself first.
Oh, that's always like the toughest question. So I'm a Jersey girl in Reno. I've lived all over the world, lived in Japan, lived in Hawaii, lived in the East Coast, lived on the West Coast. I grew up in the world of sales. My dad wrote strategic selling. I literally grew up in Miller Heiman in the business, got my start there on sales. Never thought I was going to do sales. I was going to be an international trade negotiator. And then I got into the world of sales just kind of by
happenings.
Yes, just kind of life happens. So I'm now process focused and strategy focused, and I love helping companies grow. So that's I don't know, what else do you want to know about me?
That's perfect. That's perfect. All right, let's all over the world. I know you and I both love to go to different restaurants. What is your favorite restaurant of all the places in the world that you've had dinners? Now,
that's a tough question.
Yeah. All right. We'll think about it through the show and we'll come back to it at the end.
Okay. I'll think about that.
Fair enough. So strategy, sales strategy, there's so many people out there. Liz, you and I've talked about this sitting next to each other for many months, and just at a recent conference we were at together. People like to throw stuff against the walls to see what sticks, right? When you talk about a sales strategy, there's processes involved. Can you kind of talk to us about how that gets started in your world?
Yeah. So, it's a funny thing, but we don't tend to think about sales ops until we get to be a really big company, right? But truly, from the very beginning, we need to have a sales operating system that helps us function. And it starts with sales. Actually, it starts with vision, right? Who is this company? I work with companies that are all over the board. They're just doing whatever comes in, and they don't really have a clear path to success. So before you do anything else, you need to stop and go, how am I getting where I'm going? Like, where do I want to go? And then you can figure out, how am I going to get there? And then that's the strategy part. And I often talk about a sales positioning framework, which is the things your salespeople need in order to do a good job understanding the company and picking the right customer. So you're still talking about vision, value, and mission, which I do. I don't know if you notice, I swapped those upside down.
You did. Tell me about that after this.
Okay. And we need to know who our ideal customer is, and we need to know our positioning in the marketplace. And I always say that's kind of vis-a-vis your customer, but also vis-a-vis your competition, right? So what's my positioning in the marketplace? And then we need to understand our value proposition. What's my customer's problem? How do they talk about it? How do I solve it, right? So that's the starting place, that really high level. And then we can start talking about, okay, now that we understand this, then what? Well, we need a sales strategy. We need a lead generation strategy. Now we need processes in place to support those activities that need to happen. We need a way to manage them. So we need to build it all out so the pieces fit together and we have something that's manageable and predictable and sustainable, and it's not chaos. So if your sales organization is chaos, chances are you're missing the very top piece, which is strategy. Right. You probably have some processes, but they're not very well defined. And you probably don't have the management systems in place. I'm not talking about management skills, but management systems in place to support all of the things that you need to do. And that's really, it's not like you can just talk about strategy or just about process. You got to put this whole thing together so it works.
I love that. And I think, and I'm going to take a guess on this and shoot me down if I'm wrong, but you switched those probably for vision, values, and mission, because we have to think of the buyer first before of ourselves. Is that correct?
That's a big part of it.
Okay.
And I've been doing strategic planning for many, many, many years. I kind of fell into it accidentally. There's a long story about that. But one of the things I discovered was that we would spend an hour and a half fighting over the mission, and then nobody really wanted to think about vision or values. And what I discovered is if you start with the vision, and I don't mean a vision statement. I'm not like, I wish I had a Sim City tool. You know what Sim City is? Or farmland or whatever, to build out, right, your visual vision for your company, right?
Yeah.
And then if you know what's important to you, then you can start to, why do we exist? What do we want to accomplish? Whose lives do we want to change? How big do we want to grow? All these things, right? Then we can start to say, well, how do we want to get there? And for me, the how is with a set of values. We will do it with kindness. We will do it with passion. We will do it with conviction. We will do it with integrity. We will do it, right? This is how I think about it.
Yeah.
We will hire people that meet these criteria. We will work with companies that meet this criteria. We will deliver a product in this way, right? So it's all the rules about how. How do we do it? And then the mission, you just boil that all down into something very specific and simple. And so years and years of doing this and finally going, this is backwards. It's just backwards.
Yeah.
So
rearranged it for all of us. So everyone out there, listen to what she says, because she has been so successful. And I will tell you that, your values are exactly what our side B, what my side B is all about when it comes to behavioral traits for leaders, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
and if we hire leaders, so one of my pet peeves, as we create these values, we decide we have these values, we decide this is who our company is, and then we hire people that don't fit that, particularly around sales. And then they're like, well, why don't I like my salespeople? Well, why did you hire salespeople that don't fit your mission, your vision, your values, your core essence, your culture? Culture beats, what do they say? Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Well,
right.
Your culture comes out of the vision, values, and mission, right? And the strategy comes out of that. So, you have to hire people that fit into that and don't buy into the, salespeople are pushy, salespeople are rude, salespeople are hyper talkative, salespeople, like all these myths that we have about who salespeople are, has nothing to do with who salespeople really are, and really isn't related to how you want to run your business. So,
correct. I think, and you and I both agree, sales is one of the most difficult jobs out there, and trying to understand all the things that, that go into the sales process and goes into being a salesperson is difficult. And so when you get to that point, it can be very challenging to define who you are to sell to the buyer if you don't have a process in place.
Well, and again, the strategy, right? So if I hire, how many times have you heard this, Paula? You talk to a relatively new company and they say, this is my third sales rep I've gone through. They can't, it doesn't work. And at some point you got to stop and say, okay, did you hire 3 bad salespeople? And maybe you did because you didn't understand what you were hiring for. Or maybe you don't have the things in place that your salesperson needs to be successful. And this is even true with older companies. I find oftentimes I'll be talking to a company that's 20 or 30 years old and the world has changed around them, but their philosophy around sales has not.
Right.
Well, you need a different kind of salesperson. You need a different kind of agent. You need a different kind of message for the world that you're in now. You need different process. Everything has changed around you and you've kind of just let sales limp along without really stopping and restating what they need. They have to have your positioning in the marketplace. They have to know where you fit. Are you Nikes or are you Adidas? Who are you? And
remember Keds?
Keds. My mom still wears Keds. I have a picture of my mom's foot next to my daughter's foot, and she wears not Keds. She wears
Converse.
no. Anyway, same shoe, different brand. One's 80, one's was 18, right? It was really anyway. But yeah, they're totally different. Are you a skater shoe? Are you a court shoe? Are you a runner shoe? Like, what are you? Who are you in the marketplace? Because you can be everything if you're Nike, right?
Right.
Tons of money to be all things to all people. But still, if you're a serious runner, you probably wear Asics.
Yeah.
Or Brooks, right?
Honestly, I don't see Nike developing business shoes.
They don't.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice though?
Might be.
Actually, I work from home. I don't even wear shoes lately, right?
Right.
But anyway, so the point is your salespeople to be successful, they need your vision. They need your values. They need your ideal customer profile. They need your mission. They need to know who your ideal customer is. They need to know how you're positioned in the marketplace, and they need value propositions, not just one for the company, but one for each of the different kinds of buyers that they're selling to. Without that core piece, that beginning piece, they're not going to be successful. They also need to understand what is the sales process you need to go through to be successful. What are the questions that have to be asked? What are the tasks that have to happen? How do we move things through? Who's most likely to close? They need to understand all this. So if you just pick somebody out of the blue and say, here, go, you're going to have a really hard time. And we tend to think that salespeople can do anything. Like if I'm a salesperson, I ought to be able to do anything. But different salespeople are good at different parts of the job.
And different stages of the sale.
Right. So, if you have somebody who's really good at big enterprise relationships and, making massive deals, and then you say, okay, I want you to do some outbound calling for me. It's not going to happen. It's not going to work.
Transactional, right? Transactional says that they're not going to do that.
No. And so if we don't understand what the job is that we have for the salesperson, who they're selling to, are we giving them leads? Or are they getting their own leads? Are they managing their own accounts, or is somebody else managing them? We need to understand all of those things so we can figure out what is the kind of salesperson that I need for this job now. And it's all part of understanding the process and the strategy, right?
So if you were to give the next generation leader who right now is in middle management and they are, preparing themselves for promotion, what would be the 3 things that you would tell them about processes about strategy that they really need to focus on to get there?
So any manager or sales manager?
Sales manager.
Anything?
Yeah.
I think that the thing I love about strategy is, again, it's your roadmap to success. So if you don't have a strategy, then the best you can do is be reactive to what's happening around you. Mm-hmm. And being reactive is not typically very productive or effective in the long run. So I need a plan. I can change this. The second thing is, first is I need to create a plan. Second is I need to be prepared to change my plan. Mm-hmm. And so I create a strategy if I'm just going to change it, because now when I change the plan, I can go back to my strategy and go, what else is going to be impacted by that change? What messaging, what positioning, what resources, what programs are going to change? You don't just arbitrarily flip the switch without really looking at what are the implications? What activities are we wasting time on that shouldn't be doing anymore because now we're doing this, right? So have your strategy, be prepared to follow your strategy or change your strategy if you need to. And the third is, what systems and processes need to be in place with your team to support that? And how are you supporting them? So an example of not doing that well is most sales leaders do the worst sales meetings in the world. Okay, how many people, and if you're sitting out there and you're with me and you're like, oh my gosh, Liz, I lived this, right? They're sitting in a sales meeting and they're going over everybody's funnel.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm going to sit there for an hour and a half and 10 minutes of it is about me. Yeah, don't do that.
No,
don't do that. So when you're having meetings, be really clear about what kinds of things happen in group meetings, what kinds of things happen in individual meetings, what's the difference between a coaching meeting and a training meeting? What's the difference between a development meeting? They're different things. You know, are you hitting your goals is a really different conversation than how do I help you do this better?
Right, exactly. And don't spend 5 minutes on each one. Make it a full one-on-one meeting, whatever it is, whether it is development, whether it is coaching, whether it is pipeline review. You know, trying to fit all three of those into one half hour or 45-minute meeting is a waste of time for you and a waste of time for the salesperson.
And the other thing is we spend a lot of time coaching the people that are the least effective players. And we ignore the people who are our best players because we think, oh, they're just going to be fine, but they need support too. And they can be getting better too. So
a friend of mine say at one time, and I think this is really impactful and something to think about, is I've heard a friend of mine say, don't lower the bar to meet the expectation.
Right. Raise the bar. So my dad was you know, I love talking to my dad about sales because he's got like all these great stories. And he was talking about this company in New York that was an automobile company. I think they sold cars. Anyway, they fired the lowest performers, the lowest 3 or the lowest 10 or whatever it is performers at the end of every year.
Yeah.
And because they figured we should only be focused on our highest performers. And so rather than, you know, fooling around trying to make them better, that was just the rule. Every year they fired the lowest ones. And I'm not sure everyone should do that, but we definitely shouldn't be lowering the standard. We should be raising.
We got a comment here from Simone, and Simone, I cannot get back to you on your chat here, but it says that she's hi from Toronto and the screen is black with no sound. If anyone else is out there, can you post on there if you're hearing us? So I just was curious. If not, it will go live afterwards, but still, I just want to make sure, Simone, that you know that we're with you. Let's see. I've heard about those car companies. Okay, she did come back here. She said, okay, good. Anyway, let's get back on there. We'll keep going here. So, Liz, thank you. Sorry about the disruption there. I know you and I both share in dyslexia sometimes.
Yes, we get a little disrupted.
Get a little SOS, a little shiny object syndrome, and audible. But I think you are so right in really having that for our teams that are and our next generation manager. Having those three things are really important. Let me ask you a question. Let's talk about sales ops. What is if a new company is out there, you know, we've got the strategy, we've got the vision, we've got the values, we've got the mission ready to go. What are the three things that you think that sales ops, besides funnel, all of the things that they need to create for data, what are the three things that could help salespeople sell better?
Well, one is to make sure they have the right tools and the right information. So some companies bombard their team with way too much technology. Some people don't provide any technology. Some companies provide just the right amount, and some people provide the right amount but the wrong tools. So one is having the right tools for your team to be successful.
Okay.
The second thing is sales. If you had an accounting team or you had a production team, there would be very clear processes around how they do what they're doing and how they're managed and what happens when things don't go the way they're supposed to, right? So we don't do with sales. In fact, I've been thinking about writing an article about funnel-based KPIs, right? Ooh. So rather than saying you have to do 50 calls a day or whatever your arbitrary numbers are, let's say instead, this is what a funnel should look like in our business. There should be, I'm going to make this up. There's for everything that comes out the bottom of the funnel, there's 10 on that have to go into the top of the funnel. And then a certain amount are going to filter out, qualify, a certain amount are going to filter out along the way. Some of them are going to close, but they're going to close with somebody else, blah, blah, blah. Right. So what are the rules around our funnel? What are the things that we know? What do we know about velocity? What do we know about the ratios from stage to stage? What do we know about the kinds of leads that close better than others? What do we know about qualifying? And if we figure all of this stuff out, then instead of saying you didn't make your 50 calls a day, actually, I don't care how many calls you made.
Yeah.
I care that you are getting the results that come out the end. So if you're not putting enough leads in the top of the funnel every month, then we're going to have a sit down chat about what is the best way for you to get leads in the top of the funnel. Now, if you're a BDR at a SaaS company, and I think your job is just to dial, well, then that's one thing. But if you have a complex sale with multiple companies and your leads are coming in, you're getting some are coming from marketing, some are referrals, right? If all of this is happening, I don't really care how you get the 10 in the top, as long as you get 10 qualified leads in the top for everyone that's going to come out the bottom. And so if I build my KPIs around what I know about the sales process and how our customers flow through the funnel and through the process, then I can make KPIs that matter. And I can measure against the things that matter. When I look at your CRM, do you have next actions? Do you know what you're supposed to be doing with these 100 leads? Because don't tell me with the 100 leads, you can remember what follow-up means.
Exactly.
I can't remember what follow-up means half the time when I'm talking with 5 or 6 different, like I have to go back and look at my notes and go, what did we talk about last? Where were they? Right? If a lead takes a year to close, you can't remember everything. So are you putting the critical data in?
And calling it stage 1, 2, 3 is not necessarily going to work.
No. And the other not going to work is having activities as your stages. Okay. So, or having past tense, qualified is my stage. What does that mean? If I'm qualified, I'm done. So then I'm in my next stage. Put it in my next stage. Delivered proposal is not a stage. You're in closing. They've got the proposal. Now you have to do all the activities around closing. And I think that when we mix up activities and stages, it's very confusing for everybody to use and understand the funnel. It has to be the way you put the data into your CRM means whether the data we're fine, when we're looking at it, that we actually have valuable data. And most CRMs are full of nonsense because no one cares and no one looks at it. No one pays attention. They don't coach around it. They don't support around it. And so nobody cares and it's just garbage. And for me, if your sales team is kind of the heart of your business, then that CRM is the EKG, right? That tells us how it's working.
Yes. Yeah. And having that CRM not filled with just stuff, but using things in there that do make a difference. I think you're so spot on with that, because right now I've seen a lot of CRMs that just add this, click this. It just adds a lot of work.
And everybody gets their 2 cents about what's supposed to go in the CRM. So now as a sales leader, I'm looking at this mess, or as a salesperson, I'm looking at this mess and I can't find what I need. I have to put things in that I don't know the answer to. So I put fake stuff in there. Like one of my pet peeves is that the CRM requires you to put in a close date.
Yeah.
When you have no idea when it's going to close. So you're just making stuff up. We just make stuff up and put it right in there and then wonder why it isn't. And then we never change it. So,
Here's a good one from Simone. It's the heart of the business, the CRM as the EKG. That's awesome. So I think you are spot on with that and really understanding. And if anyone needs help with understanding a strategy, sales strategy to what needs to go into a CRM, dissecting processes, Liz is your person, because she has been doing this for multitude of years, and that's all I'm going to say. Multitude of years, and really is a special person to get that kind of information into the right system for our salespeople. And I, being a 30 plus year salesperson myself, and a sales manager director, I understand it from both angles. What's important, what's not important, what are we going to use, what are we not going to use, and what is fluff and what is marshmallow, and so
yeah,
it's interesting. And you have so many great ideas on really how to impact salespeople to do their job better. And I think the KPI funnel, I think you need to write that article. That would be an amazing article to read.
thanks. I have a bunch of articles on my website about strategy and process.
Mm-hmm.
And so if anybody will find me on LinkedIn, say hello to me. I love to talk. I love to connect with people. And then if you go to my website, you can find the articles. You can also schedule a meeting if you want to come chat.
Mm-hmm. And your website is, because I've got your LinkedIn here, your website is
regardingsales.com.
regardingsales.com. And so we have a few more minutes here. Let's talk about dyslexia.
Oh, geez.
Both are in that realm. Some people don't understand that it's not just a reading disorder.
No.
It is actually a neuro disorder that affects not only your reading, your vision, and your hearing, but it can also help you. And the way I look at it is it helps me think differently. How does dyslexia help you think differently?
Well, I'm not sure. I only know that people often say I didn't think about it that way when they're talking to me. My professors in college and graduate school used to panic sometimes when I spoke because I would put together things that they never thought about putting together. So while I have a really hard time with shapes, like which way is it? Like we were joking around because we're backwards and I wanted to wipe my bangs out of I can't figure it out. Right. I switch letters. One of the things that I struggle with is deals and leads. I can't tell the difference.
Really?
So so I use opportunities because if I have to click in and guess and hope that I got the right one. So it interferes with some of my everyday activities, but I also think our brain connections are different than other people. And so we go about solving problems differently. We connect things that other people might not connect. So it's a curse and a gift at the same time. But what's really interesting is I forget the stat. I'm terrible with stats because I get them and they just go out of my head. But like 25% of entrepreneurs are dyslexic.
Absolutely. And the Shark Tank gentleman, Mr. Wonderful, he's dyslexic. And he said, if you have a business, hire a dyslexic to be on your executive board because of their thought process. Now,
it's different. And then I wonder, I haven't been able to find any numbers, but I wonder how many salespeople are dyslexic, didn't do well in school, struggled all through school, and are fantastic at sales.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And for me, what I think is as I'm getting older is I have so many thoughts in my head that when it comes out of my mouth now, my words get jumbled and I might say something that doesn't mean anything to anybody else, but I certainly understand it. And I remember having to do presentations where I would just put people's names down because instead of typing different things, because that was my trigger to understand the next conversation in my head.
What's really interesting is there's actually connection between being dyslexic and not being able to remember people's names.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because I will literally sit there with somebody that I know well and have known for years, but my brain cannot connect their face and the name. And I'm just sitting there struggling with this. And I only learned recently that that is another way that and I've done this my whole life. This is not like just new. This is another way that dyslexia comes out. So if that's the case, then we have to be super thoughtful and careful about keeping names written down and putting all the information in the CRM so we know who we're talking to and who said what.
And not on little, pieces of paper that you grab. I know. I use envelopes because
the other thing that I do is I use notebooks.
Yeah.
Instead of sticky notes. I don't know how when sticky notes get in front of me, it's a disaster, but I use notebooks so I can flip back through and find what I wrote. So
here's for you. If you're using sticky notes, I've done that. I've taken the sticky notes and put them into the notebook. So
yeah,
that.
Or take pictures of them.
Yeah.
But one of the tools that I use now is OneNote or Evernote. OneNote is the Word version of the Microsoft version. I put all those things I can't remember in there.
Yeah.
And then I just pull them up when I need them.
I want to thank Liz so much for being here. And next week we will be off for Memorial Day. I hope you all enjoy your holiday and just remember those who have been in the service and have died for us. And so until the following week, we'll see you in June. Liz, thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, you're welcome. Have a great day and happy selling, everybody.
Happy selling.